Hey guys, it's Editor BHA here bringing you the latest video. So the great folks over at Sunsa Home sent me over something pretty awesome. Now this is probably one of the coolest smart home products I've kind of seen as of late, as far as the ability to install and everything and how simple it is. It's definitely worth checking out. But the Sunsa Wand is probably the easiest solution for retrofitting your smart blinds. It literally installs in probably less than 10 minutes, and that's including the setup and configuration within the app itself. So let's check it out. So I've done some videos in the past on specifically the iBlinds, which was another smart blinds product, which is pretty awesome. It allows you to pull your blinds down, replace the motor with a smart motor, which will then open and close the blinds for you that way. But this one is even cooler. You're going to replace your regular wand that you would normally have for controlling your smart blinds and put a smart wand on it, or the Sunsa wand, and it's going to be able to control it via the cloud, which is pretty awesome. All right, so let's do a quick run through of everything we're going to cover in this video. So, of course, for starters, we're going to unbox the device. Once we do that, then we will install the wand and get it configured in the Sunsa app. Once that's done, then we will kind of go over that configuration within the app and just what all options you do have. After that, we are going to take a look at the REST API and show you what you're able to do with that, because that's kind of how we're going to get this thing added into Home Assistant, which of course is our next step here. We're going to add it into Home Assistant. And then lastly, I'm just going to kind of go over some final thoughts that I had and talk about just a few things about the Sunsa Wand itself and everything else. Let's get started. So let's go ahead and start by unboxing the device. Not really anything on the outside of the box here. Let's go ahead and get it opened up. For starters, on the inside, of course, there's instructions that go over the basic setup of the wand here. Of course, we have the wand. Let's pull it out of the sleeve here. It's, pretty decent size. It's a little bit bigger, obviously, than your standard wand, but of course, it has all the controls and everything inside of it. So obviously, that's why. Let's see, we get mounting brackets or adapters that you'll use to kind of help you as far as being able to control the blinds. And they have several different styles here depending on the layout of your blinds and what type of blinds you're using. So we'll go further into that when we actually do the setup. So it's got 4 AA batteries because this unit does run on AA batteries, which is kind of cool. Usually you end up with some odd battery size to control it, but this actually just uses regular 4 AA batteries. It does have the ability to plug in an external power supply or a solar panel as well. Those are add-ons that you can purchase separately that don't necessarily come with the unit itself. And then, of course, you have these little connectors here at the end. These will be used to connect the same way your regular standard wand is. So depending on how yours is connected, that will also determine what type of end you will use on the end of it. But that's about it for this. So basically, if we unscrew the bottom here, we'll just slide these 4 batteries in here in the end. And that's, of course, all you have to do as far as putting the batteries in. But that's about it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll get this thing installed and configured in the app. All right, so for starters, this is the window that I'm going to be installing this on. This is in my office. I figured this was a good place to try this out and see how well it works. And normally I would do the install and then we'll configure it in the app afterwards. But because of the way they set up the instructions in the app, it's super easy to just kind of follow along with the instructions and do the install along the way. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. So of course I have the app pulled up here. We're going to go ahead and hit add device. And then you just kind of follow through the various steps. So it's kind of pointing out the idea of your manual wand that you currently would have on your blinds. And then as you can see, it lists 4 different options for those blinds are connected. Of course, that will determine what type of end you're going to use on the end of this wand. So mine had the hook on there by default, but I'm going to switch it to the eyelet. So of course here the hook is, we're just going to go through and basically we're going to remove that. We're going to put this eyelet on here to replace it. And of course there it is. Now I got them swapped out. It's basically just removing that one screw. You slide the end off, you'll put the new one on, and then of course put the screw right back in and you are good to go. Back to the instructions here. It's just kind of explaining how to remove it, which we already did anyway, so we're kind of done with this. We'll move along to the next step. We've also already gone through installing the batteries, so we'll kind of skip ahead on that as well. All right, so at this point, it is talking about these horizontal and mini blind adapters. So depending on what type of blinds you have will determine which one of these adapters you're going to use. Also depends on which side of the window the wand is going to be on. So mine is on the left side, so we're going to use the left adapter setup. And as you can see in this picture, it just kind of runs right alongside there. It's got double stick tape at the top to stick that thing on. So basically you're going to slide this little piece in, and then once you get it all the way through, then you can turn it. And just to show you, here's mine. It's kind of what mine looks like here. So it is up and running there. Got it all the way through, got it turned, so it should be good to go. Now, one thing you want to note, it does mention that in the instructions, but you want to make sure that you have it to where your wand will hang about a pencil's width away from your blinds. If it's touching the blinds and stuff, it could cause issues when it's trying to open them, if it's hitting on it and everything when it tries to open. I ran into that when I did my first setup. I think it caused some of the issues that I had initially as far as mine not calibrating properly. So make sure that when you're setting this up that you do have a little bit of a gap between your blinds themselves and the wand. And of course, this little adapter will kind of help facilitate that and make sure that that happens the way it should. But basically, once you got all that set up, then we're really ready to kind of complete the installation. It's going to go through and ask about Bluetooth, which we will already have turned on. And then from there, it's going to communicate with the wand. It's going to search for the wand, and it should be able to see it because we already got the batteries in. And now we can plug in the Wi-Fi information so that it can get connected to the Wi-Fi. And that is it. It is successful. Now we have the wand on our network. I can change it, let's see here, to office blinds. That's what I'm going to call it. And at this point, it's kind of ready to go through the calibration of the blinds. So here you're going to choose what type of blinds you have. Obviously mine are the horizontal blinds. They're not mini, they're the big Venetian style blinds, or the thicker white ones. Let's see. So if we hit start calibration, it's going to have you go through the steps. I'm not going to kind of go through all this with you. Basically, it has you, set it so it's all the way open, and then of course close it all the way up and close it all the way down so that it can determine where it needs to be at all those different points. And then once it goes through that whole setup, then it is done with calibrating and you're ready to go. So kind of fast forward through all that, because it does take a little bit of time to get it all calibrated, but not too bad. And here we go. It is completely calibrated. We're ready to move on to the next step. But that's it on the installation. As you can see, it is extremely fast and easy to install. Probably the easiest way to retrofit your blinds and make them smart blinds. I don't know that it would get much easier than that. But let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we will kind of go over the configuration in the app. All right, so let's go over the configuration that we have in the app. So if we hit the little settings button in the top corner, there's not a whole lot of information here. So you can modify the name if you want, which we already named ours. You can select the blind type if for some reason you changed it, but of course we had ours set to horizontal blinds. It lists the MAC address, the battery power. Now, one other thing that it lists there, as you can see, is the temperature. And I spoke with the Sunsa Homes about that, and they are not currently really utilizing that temperature sensor just yet. At some point, it will be much more usable within the interface, and I'm assuming they'll add it to the API as well. But currently, it's there, but almost more as a placeholder, I think. Of course, it shows the last time it actually connected, and then you can calibrate it again if you want, as well as down here at the bottom, you have the option to update the firmware. So it looks like mine's current, so I don't need to update that, but that's pretty much all you need to do from the settings itself. If you go back to the main settings of the app itself, there's a few other options here that I haven't mentioned yet. One of them is if you have multiple um, wands set up for different blinds in your house, you can actually add them into groups. Say maybe you have a room that has multiple windows and you want to be able to open and close them all at the same time. This will give you the ability to do that. There's also the option for schedules. So maybe during the day you want the blinds open, and then at nighttime you want them to close. You can certainly set that up here with an automatic schedule. Lastly, here is the settings section. This is basically for your user account information for the Sunsa app. But as you can see down there at the bottom, it lists API settings. Now, this is what you want to enable. So I already have mine active here. But this is how you're going to be able to work with the REST API. So you'll need the API key that's listed here. And the other thing you need to do is you need to reach out to Sunsa support and let them know so that they can give you your user ID. Basically, you'll tell them the email address that you set up with your Sunsa account, and they will provide you with the user ID that you can then use with the REST API. But let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and we'll take a look at the REST API. All right. So the REST API is hosted on Swagger Hub, and I'll have the link in the description below. But once you get your user ID information from Sunsa, and of course you have your API key, then you can basically create you an account on Swagger Hub, which if you're already using GitHub, you can actually link your GitHub account to it. But once you do all that, you'll authorize your API key in here, and then you can start playing around with it. So as you can see, they have two main commands. There's one get and one pull. Now the get command will actually pull in your ID device number, the name of your device, what current position it's in, and the API URL. I don't know if you can see it there, but whenever it runs the command and it sends back idDevice, it actually has it misspelled. So just take note of that. I did reach out to Sunsa to let them know in case they wanted to go ahead and get that updated. The other option is the put command. And here, of course, you will need not only your user ID, but your device ID. Now, the device ID you will get whenever you do the get command. So that's where you'll get that device ID. And you'll be able to use that here. And from this one, you can actually tell it what position you want to set the blinds at. So the position will range anywhere from -100 to +100. So I think -100 is closed up, +100 is closed down. So in order to have it fully open, you would set it at 0. But that just kind of gives you an idea on how that will work. But these commands right here are the commands that we're going to use to set up the sensor and cover and everything in Home Assistant so that we'll be able to control these blinds from within Home Assistant. So let's go ahead and move on to that next step and check it out. All right, so now we are ready to get this thing added into Home Assistant. And this is kind of a lengthy step because there's a lot involved with it. And I will say there are multiple ways to get this thing set up in Home Assistant, and this is just kind of the way I've done it. Not necessarily saying it is the correct way to do it, or even if it's the best way to do it. I just wanted to make sure I preface that. But I'm going to start by creating a sensor to basically monitor all the different attributes that we can pull in. And we'll be using the REST sensor, as you can see here. So I've already got it pulled up here in my sensor.yaml file, but we'll just kind of walk through it here. It's kind of down there at the bottom. The platform, of course, is type REST. Now I put the scan interval at 10 minutes, which is 600 seconds. You can set it whenever you want or however long you want, but understand that, of course, that more often you're checking it, it could drain the battery a lot faster. So since I don't use the blinds continuously all the time, I figure just ever so often checking it should be fine. And I got some added things that will kind of go along with that that will actually update it a little bit faster, but this is kind of what we'll start off with. Under resource, this is the API URL that we get from that swagger.hub API setup. I'm not going to call it all the way out here. Under name, I just called mine Office Blinds. That's where I have them set up. All right, now under headers, there's only one header that it really used, and that was accept equals application/JSON. So that's what I set here. Now, getting the JSON attributes path was kind of difficult. Just trying to figure out exactly how to do it. I basically plugged it into a website that would kind of lay that out for me so I could get the correct path. But basically, it's $dot open bracket 0 close bracket dot, and then basically that's it. I have verify underscore SSL set to false. And then here I listed out the JSON attributes. And as you can see, I spelled idDevice wrong just as it was listed in the attributes section on Swagger Hub. So if they do end up updating that, of course, then we'll be able to correct that as well. Position, name, and API URL are the other attributes that were available to us. And I'm not exactly sure the best way to go about setting the value template. For the time being, I just set it to OK. I'll probably end up changing it and pointing it to one of those attributes once I decide which one might be the best option. But in the meantime, I think just setting it to OK will be fine. All right, so that will cover the sensor. But we also want to be able to control this from Home Assistant as well. And so I thought I would try something new that I haven't done before, which is utilizing the REST command integration. It looks like it's similar to like your shell command integration, but it allows you to enter all the information for the REST API. So that's kind of what we're going to go with here. All right, so I basically set up 3 different REST commands, and I'll kind of go into a little bit further details later whenever we actually set up the cover for this. But basically, for right now, we're going to have a command that will open it, a command that will close them, and then a third command that we can kind of use to set it to a certain number or position if we want to do that. I'm just going to go over the open command, but I'll have all of these in the description so that you can copy and paste it and play around with them as well. But so it's open underscore office underscore blinds is what I called it. And then the URL is the same URL that we're getting from Swagger Hub with the public API. Now for the method, it will be put. And for headers, only one real header for this one, and it's still accept equals application slash JSON. So that's what we have listed here. But then we also want to set content type to that as well. And then for the payload, this is what we want to set it to. So for open, if you remember, open is 0. So here I have it listed as position : 0. And then I went ahead and set verify underscore SSL to false as well. And basically the close command and the set command that I have down below there are pretty much the same configuration. I just changed the payload for the various commands. And like I said, I'll have it all in the description below so that you can copy and paste it. But once you have those REST commands in there, we'll go ahead and save that file. So to utilize those REST commands, I also created scripts. Just like I created 3 REST commands, I also created 3 scripts. So one for open, one for close, and one for set. Again, we'll go over just one of them, but all 3 of them are pretty much the same. They're just going to reference the various REST commands. For the open script, it is open underscore office underscore blinds. Alias is just open office blinds as well. See, under sequence for the service, it's rest underscore command dot open underscore office underscore blinds. And then after I called that service, I gave it a delay of 2 seconds. And then I went ahead and did a update entity, which will basically force that sensor to update the status. Instead of waiting the 10 minutes that we currently have it set to. If we make a change to the blinds, we want it to automatically update so that the sensor will be correct. And I did that for all 3. Again, they're pretty much the same. Each script is just calling the specific REST command. Everything else is the same. I'll have all that in the description so you can copy and paste it as well. And then for the last part of this, we're going to create a cover template. Now, covers are usually what you have for garage doors, curtains, but they also work pretty good for blinds as well, especially since there is not a blind integration for Home Assistant. The downside to covers is that they can open all the way up and they can close, but there's not the option like you would normally have with the blinds, which is the ability to open, close up, or close down. Since blinds go both directions, there's not a good way to do that with a cover. So basically, I just had to make a decision about whether I wanted Home Assistant to be able to control it and close it up or close it down. I opted for closing down, but you could basically tweak the template to do it whichever way you want. All right, so just to kind of go over all that, hopefully that's not too confusing. But as you can see, here is my cover template down at the bottom. We're going to utilize those scripts that we just created. So the platform, of course, will be template. I'm just going to call this office underscore blinds. That'll be the friendly name as well, just office blinds. And then for open underscore cover, we're going to call that script. So as you can see, its service is script.open underscore office underscore blinds. And then also for the close cover, it's going to be kind of the same thing. Script.close underscore office underscore blinds. And then the third one is that set underscore cover underscore position. And that's where we're going to call that script.set underscore office underscore blinds command. For that set cover position, we're going to use a data template. This will allow us to set the numerical position that we want to use. So position will be bracket, bracket, position. And the last part is the position template. And this is the only way I could really come up with to be able to manage with 0 being open and 100 being closed. And let me kind of explain this to you and why I did it this way. If you're familiar with the cover integration at all, 0 is usually closed and 100 is usually open. And they don't allow you to swap that around or change it. So I had to come up with some kind of option to flip those around so that whenever we did open or close the blinds, that it would actually update the sensor and show the correct position. I'm not 100% sure this is the right way to do it, but it somewhat works. And so that's kind of what we're going with for now. All right, so once we have all of that in there, we can go ahead and save it. At this point, we would jump back over to Home Assistant, restart Home Assistant for the changes all to take effect between the rest commands, the scripts, the cover template. Give that a second to come back up, and then we could basically go in and we'll add a button that will control this or these blinds. Cover.office underscore blinds. And yeah, looks like it's working. Everything is going pretty well. Let's go ahead and move on to the last step and kind of go over my final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts. Well, first things first, I have heard back from Sunsa support, and they did correct idDevice in the API so that it now is spelt correctly. And the other thing is they added battery percentage. So now whenever you do the get command through the REST API, you will also be able to monitor the battery percentage of the wand, which is pretty awesome. I don't know that the wand is 100% ready for prime time usage. I do think it's definitely headed in the right direction. It works very well. I've been running it for about a little over a week now without any issues whatsoever. So I think it works pretty good and I'm pretty pleased with it. I definitely think if you have the ability to get the solar panel with it, I think that's the way to go to keep from having to change the batteries. Even though it's only AA batteries, I don't know how long they're going to last yet. If you could get away with using the solar panel and not ever having to change the batteries, that's definitely the way to go. Now this one, compared to the other smart blinds options that are out there that are available, this one is by far the easiest install, and I definitely think it is the way to go. I spoke with the guys over at Sunsa just a little bit. They did mention the possibility in the future of having a Zigbee option, which would keep you from necessarily having to use the cloud API. Everything would be local in your house and everything, so that'd be pretty awesome. And I would probably prefer that feature overall, just because anything that I can do locally that won't require internet access is obviously the way to go. But again, I'll have the link in their description below. Check out their website, see what they have to offer. I don't know that they're in full production as far as shipping out to every location yet, but you could check availability and see what they have going on there. Definitely worth checking out. One other thing, if you guys have any better solutions as far as how I could handle the cover and being able to open and close the blinds through Home Assistant, let me know what my options might be, because I know there's some better options out there as far as building the templates and making everything work properly. Just wasn't sure the best solution. As always, I'd like to thank everybody for donating to my Buy Me a Coffee link. Every little bit helps. If you haven't had a chance, jump over to my spring merchandise page and check out all of the Burns home automation merchandise. And if you're interested in VPN service, check out IPVanish. I'll have the link in the description below. Jump over there and see what deals they are currently offering. If you are interested in buying and selling stock or maybe cryptocurrency, check out Robinhood. I'll have a link in the description below. If you hit that link and sign up, you and I both will get free shares of stock. So it's a win-win for both of us. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. As always, if there are any videos out there that you would like to see that I don't already have out there, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can't get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around.